Race 1 of 3 here at Donington in the Radical Challenge. It's the championship showdown. It's between Dominic Jackson and Jerome de Sadelier, and now Marcus Clutton ahead on track of Jackson, and Jackson is being reeled in by de Sadelier. Jerome de Sadelier took 2 points off Jackson for pole position. You get 2 for the fastest lap of the race, but right now Clutton has got that. Marcus Clutton, number 69, working his way through the traffic. Heading up towards Coppice. Jackson getting boxed in a little bit there. To the inside line goes Marcus Clutton. To the outside line goes Dominic Jackson. Jerome de Sadelier looking for an advantage as they drop down towards the chicane. Elliot Goodman is the man trying to keep out of the way. But look, the largely white car of Jerome de Sadelier makes it 3 wide for the race lead as they come down to the chicane. He's got past 1, he's got past 2. De Sadelier takes over the lead. Brilliant bit of driving. Wide and up the curb goes Dominic Jackson. Clutton round the outside of him. Elbows out. The man from Oldham is going to go back ahead. So, end of the lap. It is Jerome de Sadelier in the lead, second Marcus Clutton, and down to third is Dominic Jackson. Championship advantage goes the way of de Sadelier now, no question, because look, having hit the front, straight away he's pulling away as they drop down the hill. Jerome de Sadelier with nothing to lose, he was saying pre-race, really is on a mission now. More battling going on here. Brian Cordwell losing ground. Was Chris Short gaining places out of all of this. Chris Short up from the SR1 Cup for the weekend. There he is in number 75 in the Radical Works team car, the man from Wolverhampton, getting a taster of what these more powerful cars are like with a view to perhaps doing a full season next year. So Chris Short, who qualified 7th, had a really good qualifying run, going strongly, but he is up against Mark Williams there, the Scotsman number 18, the man from Midlothian, ahead of him as they come out of the chicane. Race leaders in traffic, and there Jack Constable being swatted aside by the charging Dominic Jackson. So Jack Constable was in that mix oh so briefly. Jerome de Sadelier now comes up to have a go at the Short-Williams duel, and this is where it gets leery for the race leader. He wants to get through as quickly as possible, but he does not want to put himself in jeopardy and risk getting involved in somebody else's battle, somebody else's incident, which could cost him dear. Down the hill they come. There, look, still charging along, banking points. Dominic Jackson, he knows there are still 2 more races to go this weekend, so just get points in the bag, get a good finish, that's the main aim here. Jerome de Sadelier, however, working his way through the back markers now to put a lap on Chris Short. It's been a really testing race, this, for the drivers. They've had a little bit of drizzle in the first third of the race to contend with, which got them worried about tyre choice, but drivers electing to stay on the warmer slick tyre. There, 28 going through on the inside line, Elliot Goodman with the RAW Raw Motorsports car. And that puts him ahead of the Works team shared car of Anton Zakharov and Amir Fezulin. They drop down towards the old hairpin out of the Craner curve, dauntingly fast part of the circuit. And off there at the chicane is Mark Williams, and that, I would say, is in a rather awkward place. However, up to the checkered flag comes Jerome de Sadelier. He is on target for a race win. That is going to be a 7th of the season. Across the line he comes, and it's a win for Jerome de Sadelier, victorious here at Donington. Second is going to go the way of Marcus Clutton, and Dominic Jackson takes third. Confirmation of those results: Jerome de Sadelier victorious, Marcus Clutton second, Dominic Jackson third. An impressive drive by Joe Stables for 4th ahead of Chris Short, with the Headlams winning the team part of the race, rounding out the top 6. Others, though, in strife, others with some hard luck stories to tell at the end of the race. But the man of the moment, undoubtedly, is Jerome de Sadelier. That is very good news for him as far as the championship is concerned, narrowing that gap against Dominic Jackson. And well done to Chris and Dan Headlam, who win the team class. Well done to Jerome de Sadelier.
An interesting race, maybe the best race I've ever raced. It rained about 3 times on half of the track. And I had the team on the radio asking me, "Do you want to pit for wets? Do you want to pit for wets?" And I kept delaying it, kept waiting, and I guess that paid out, because then a lot of people that got onto the wet tires struggled. So I pushed really hard, made a couple good moves, took advantage of the traffic who were on the wet tires, and managed to get in front of everyone.
Yeah, we've had really good pace, and you know, Val have done a great job with the car as always. They've helped me, and you know, I'm trying to reward them with a few podiums, and we're getting them. A little bit disappointed we didn't get the win, really.
But when we came in for the pit stop, it was raining on one half of the circuit, but it seemed to be lightening up a bit. So I just thought it's not worth going on to wets because unless it completely tips down, we'll end up on the wrong side of it.
Yeah, it's been a great season for us. We're looking forward to next year.
The team did great, kind of making the call, staying on the slicks, and then, I mean, for the first kind of 2 laps of my stint, there was a little bit more damp, but then it just dried out.
Race 2 of the weekend here at Donington is going to be the 20-minute sprint race. It will begin from a standing start. It is Jérôme de Sadelier who lines up on pole position with Dominic Jackson with him at the front of the grid. Row 2 is Jack Constable and Marcus Clutton. So 4 winning drivers locking out the top 4 on the grid ahead of their very impressive newcomer Chris Short. He will start 5th. Mark Richards next ahead of Elliot Goodman, John McLeod, Chris Preen and Spencer Bourne to round out the top 10 on the grid. It's a 22-strong grid that we have here at Donington, and this 20-minute race is going to be getting underway shortly. The drivers making their way back to the grid. We've had an incident on the first start, so this restart ready to get underway. Is it going to be Jérôme de Sadelier to score a second win and bank more points? Let's see. Lights out. It is blast off. Good getaway by Jackson. Not a great start by de Sadelier, who gets jumped, look, also by Clutton and by Jack Constable. So where is de Sadelier? He is 4th at best as they turn into Redgate Corner there. Number 44, the Nick Hull, Richard Avery car goes through at the back. It is Nick Hull given driving duties for the sprint race as the leaders come down through the Craner curves. There's drama at the back, look, because the pack has already broken up. However, as they turn through the old hairpin, Dominic Jackson, crucially, as far as the championship is concerned, needs to be ahead of Jérôme de Sadelier. He is. He's ahead of everybody, in fact, as they come up towards McLean's corner. Jack Constable is 2nd. Up to 3rd is de Sadelier, and Marcus Clutton is the one that's dropped back in the pack, seemingly. Jackson leads the way. De Sadelier then now all over the back of Jack Constable. What can he do to find a way through up into 2nd place as they come down towards the chicane now? Dominic Jackson doing his best to get away. So this restarted race, the drivers flick through the right, through the left of the chicane, and then up towards the timing line of that is Jérôme de Sadelier getting it all wrong, coming out of the chicane, accelerated a bit too keenly, coldish tyres still, and the car snapped away. It was a good save, but you can see how much time that has cost him to Jack Constable, and it's brought the pack right into the mix behind him. Number 2 goes through, that's Chris Preen, inching up. There's one with a little bit of smoke as well, look, as they come down the hill. Now that, I fear, is Brian Cordwell's car. Yes, it is. There he is. Brian Cordwell turns into the old hairpin, gets it sideways, and off he goes. Brian Cordwell is off the road and has another spin, and others go off. Now, is he dropping liquid? Let's see. There's another car stationary there from earlier, look, as well, which he's managed to avoid, thankfully, which is Mark Williams' car. But that, I rather fear, is the end of Brian Cordwell. We'll wait and see whether he can get going. As Jérôme de Sadelier in 3rd starts to claw back the lost time now, getting back onto terms with Jack Constable. So Dominic Jackson needs a win in this race because that 57-point advantage has really dwindled. He needs to crack on here and try and stretch it back out again over the hard-charging Jérôme de Sadelier, who runs 3rd. And de Sadelier equally needs to gain some track places out of this. He's got to get ahead of Constable. It's that fascinating part of the season where you've got the battle on track to look at and the battle against the Abacus too. Down through the Craner curves, they swoop once more. Jackson, reigning champion, good in single-seaters, good in these sports cars, and Jack Constable, who's switched from Ginetta racing into Radicals for this year, hanging on to 2nd place. And he has, against his expectations, perhaps exceeded those expectations, been a double race winner this season, and he's not done yet. There's always the chance of the victory here or in the final endurance race of the season. Right now, though, Jackson is looking the stronger, turning their way out of Coppice onto that fast straight, Starkey straight, down to the chicane. Jackson, though, has got the advantage, and right now, there is no sign of that gap coming down, so he turns into the right and into the left, looking strong. Jack Constable hangs on to second spot. Now that, de Sadelier in third, is the same corner where he had his moment a couple of laps back. This time, no problems whatsoever. And look, he catapults onto the pit straight, right onto the tail of Jack Constable. He goes for the inside line for second place. Through he goes, easily done. So Jerome de Sadelier goes through, goes wide. Jack Constable comes back at him. They rub as they get to Hollywood. And through goes Jack Constable, up on the inside line. Out of the old hairpin. So one up and one down for Jerome de Sadelier, and all of that squabbling plays into the hands, look, of Dominic Jackson, who is continuing to build that gap up front. Through the right-hander there, look, goes second and third. Out of McLean's, up to Coppice. Double apex right, important to get a good run through this second element to it. Now, onto Starkey Straight, past the old exhibition centre on the left-hand side, down to the chicane. Dominic Jackson right now is looking very strong indeed. No pit stops, of course, in this 20-minute race. It's just a blast to the flag and another tiny error there by Jerome de Sadelier. He comes over the line. Now, is he going to be able to have another go back at Jack Constable on the inside line? Let's see. Down to Redgate. No, not quite as close this time, but it's a late dive and it works. Brilliant move. Jerome de Sadelier was a little bit further back than he was when he first tried, but he dives through, takes Jack Constable and everybody else by surprise, and he's made it stick. So now Dominic Jackson leads, Jerome de Sadelier second. It is game on. Battle continues after the break.